I stood in my own driveway, keys trembling in my hand, watching through the window as my parents and my older sister Emma argued over who deserved the master bedroom. In my house. The house I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford, the house I'd saved every penny for since I was 16, the house that was supposed to be my sanctuary. Madison, you're being unreasonable, my mother's voice carried through the thin walls as I finally pushed open the front door. Emma needs the larger space for her work setup. You understand, don't you, sweetheart? There it was again, that phrase I'd heard my entire life. You understand, don't you, Madison? Translation. You'll sacrifice what you need so Emma can have what she wants. Right, Madison? I set my purse down on the kitchen counter I'd picked out myself, in the kitchen I'd designed myself, and tried to find my voice. Mom, this is my house. I bought it. I pay the mortgage. I think I should get to decide who sleeps where. Emma rolled her eyes, her perfectly manicured fingers gesturing dismissively. God, Madison, don't be so selfish. It's just a room. Besides, I'm the older sister. I should get the master bedroom anyway. It's only fair. Only fair. I almost laughed, but the sound that came out was more like a choke. Fair would have been getting equal attention as kids. Fair would have been my parents attending at least one of my college graduations instead of missing both because Emma had a minor dental appointment the same day. Fair would have been them showing even a flicker of pride when I bought this place at 25, instead of immediately asking if Emma could use it for her engagement party. I think there's been a misunderstanding, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. When I offered to let you all stay here temporarily, I meant the guest rooms, plural, not my bedroom. Dad looked up from his newspaper, the same one he'd been pretending to read for the past 20 minutes while this argument unfolded. Madison, honey, your mother's right. Emma's going through a difficult time with the divorce, and she needs space to rebuild. You're young, you're flexible, surely you can make this work. Flexible. Another word that had followed me through childhood. Madison's flexible, she won't mind sharing. Madison's flexible, she can sleep on the couch. Madison's flexible, she doesn't need new clothes for school pictures. I looked around at my living room, the sectional sofa I'd saved months to buy, the coffee table I'd found at a garage sale, and refinished myself. The walls I'd painted a soft sage green because it made me feel calm. This was supposed to be my space, my rules, my peace. But here I was, at 25 years old, being told I was selfish for wanting to sleep in my own bed. The guest room has a queen bed, I said, trying to keep my tone level. It's comfortable. There's a desk by the window with great natural light. Emma, you'll have plenty of space for your laptop and files. A queen bed? Emma's voice pitched higher. Madison, I've been sleeping in a king bed for 3 years. Do you seriously expect me to downgrade just because you're having some weird power trip about whose name is on the deed? The words hit me like ice water. Weird power trip. About whose name is on the deed. The deed that represented 4 years of college loans, 2 years of living in a studio apartment where I could hear my neighbours sneeze, countless nights of rice and beans for dinner, so I could save for a down payment. I closed my eyes, and suddenly I was 8 years old again, standing in the hallway of our childhood home, watching my parents move all my stuffed animals and books into the smaller bedroom because Emma, at 10, needed more space for her art supplies. You understand, don't you, Madison? You're such a good little sister. I was 12, watching them write a check for Emma's summer camp, while telling me we couldn't afford the science camp I'd been dreaming about all year. You understand, don't you, Madison? Emma's having trouble making friends. I was 16, working after school at a grocery store so I could buy my own car while Emma got handed the keys to Dad's old Honda because she'd gotten into college. You understand, don't you, Madison? Emma needs reliable transportation for her future. I was 22, calling to tell them I'd graduated summa cum laude and gotten a job offer, only to have the conversation cut short because Emma was getting married and they needed to taste test catering options. You understand, don't you, Madison? This is Emma's special time. And now I was 25, being told I was selfish for wanting to sleep in the master bedroom of the house I owned. I'm not having a power trip, I said quietly. I'm just trying to set reasonable boundaries in my own home. Boundaries? Mom's voice carried that edge it always got when I didn't immediately fold. Madison, sweetheart, we're family. Family doesn't need boundaries. Family helps each other out. But what she really meant was, Madison helps everyone else out. Madison doesn't ask for help in return. I thought about the day I'd closed on this house 6 months ago. I'd called them, so excited I could barely speak, expecting congratulations, maybe even a suggestion that we celebrate together. Instead, I got a distracted, "That's nice, honey," from Mom, and immediate questions about whether Emma could host her book club here since your place will be so much bigger than her apartment. I'd spent that evening alone, eating takeout Chinese food in my empty living room, wondering why achieving my biggest goal felt so hollow. Now I knew. It was because even in my greatest moment of independence, my family was already figuring out how to make it about Emma. When I bought this house, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, I thought finally, I'd have a space where I came first, where my needs mattered, where I didn't have to be the understanding one. Oh, Madison, Mom sighed, and I could hear the familiar tone creeping in, the one that said I was being dramatic, oversensitive, difficult. You're overthinking this. It's just sleeping arrangements. It's not that deep. But it was that deep. It was 25 years deep. It was every birthday party where Emma's friends got the good chairs. Every family vacation where Emma's preferences decided our destination. Every Christmas morning where Emma's pile of presents dwarfed mine. And when I noticed, I was told I was being ungrateful. Emma was scrolling through her phone now, already mentally rearranging my furniture. "I'll need to move some of your stuff out of the master closet," she said absently. "My wardrobe is pretty extensive, and those little guest room closets are just inadequate. Oh, and I'll probably need to use your bathroom too. The guest bathroom doesn't have good lighting for my skincare routine." I stared at her. She wasn't asking. She wasn't even demanding. She was simply assuming that I would give up my bedroom, my closet, my bathroom, my privacy, assuming that her needs were more important than mine, assuming that I would understand. And the most heartbreaking part was they were right to assume it, because I always had understood. I always had stepped aside. I always had made myself smaller so Emma could shine brighter. "I need some air," I said, and walked out of my own house. I sat in my car in my own driveway, looking at the home I'd worked so hard for, and realized that in 6 months of living here, this was the first time it had felt like a prison. Through the window, I could see Emma measuring the master bedroom with her hands, probably planning where her desk would go. The worst part wasn't even Emma's entitlement. It was how natural this felt to everyone, including me. How easily I'd slipped back into the role of the accommodating younger sister, the one who understood, the one who didn't make waves. I pulled out my phone and called my friend Jessica from work. She answered on the second ring. "Jess, can I ask you something? If your family came to stay in your house, would they automatically get your bedroom?" "What? No, why would they? It's your house, Madison. You get the master bedroom. That's like the whole point of having your own place." I started crying then, sitting in my driveway, because hearing someone say it so matter-of-factly made me realize how twisted this situation really was. When I walked back into my house 20 minutes later, Emma had already moved her suitcases into my bedroom. We figured we'd save time, Mom said brightly. Emma's got so much to do with the divorce proceedings, and she really needed to get settled. I looked at my bed, now covered in Emma's clothes and legal documents. My dresser drawers were open, my personal items pushed aside to make room for her belongings. She'd even moved my jewellery box to the guest room. "I put your stuff in the smaller room," Emma called from what used to be my walk-in closet. "Don't worry, I was careful with everything, like my feelings were objects to be packed away and stored in a spare room." That night, I lay in the guest bed of my own house, staring at the ceiling and listening to Emma take a bath in my master bathroom. I could hear the water running, could smell her expensive bath salts wafting down the hall, could hear her on a phone call with someone, laughing about how she'd finally found a decent place to stay during the divorce proceedings. A decent place to stay. That's what my home had become, not Madison's house, not her little sister's accomplishment, not even family property, just a decent place to stay. I closed my eyes and made a decision. Tomorrow things were going to change. For the past 6 months, I'd been Madison the homeowner, Madison the independent woman, Madison the success story. But the moment my family walked through my door, I'd become Madison the understanding one again. Madison the flexible one. Madison the one who doesn't make waves. But this was my house, my sanctuary, my space, and it was time I started acting like it. I got up and walked to my desk, the one that was now in the guest room because Emma needed the master bedroom's better natural light. I pulled out the folder containing all my home purchase documents, the deed, the mortgage papers, the homeowner's insurance policy, all with my name on them, only my name. I'd worked too hard and sacrificed too much to let my family turn my dream home into another place where I came last. As I listened to Emma's laughter echoing through my hallway, I realized this wasn't just about a bedroom. This was about 25 years of being told that understanding meant accepting less. That being family meant never standing up for myself. That love meant always being the one to bend. But maybe, just maybe, real love meant having enough respect for someone to believe they deserved their own space, their own boundaries, their own master bedroom in their own house. And if my family couldn't give me that respect, then maybe it was time to stop giving them access to the space I'd created for myself. I looked around the guest room, nice, comfortable, perfectly adequate for visitors. Then I looked down the hall toward the master bedroom where Emma was now blow-drying her hair at midnight, and I knew what I had to do. This was my house, and it was time I started living like it. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. in what should have been my guest room and made a decision that would change everything. I'd spent the night listening to Emma rearrange my furniture, hearing my parents discuss which of my kitchen appliances they preferred, and watching through the window as my neighbour Mrs. Chen walked her dog past the house I'd worked so hard to buy. I got dressed quietly and drove to my office early, not because I had urgent work, but because I needed space to think clearly, away from the sound of Emma's voice planning how to redecorate her room, away from my mother's gentle suggestions about how I could make everyone more comfortable in my own home. At my desk, I pulled up the documents I'd reviewed the night before and made 3 phone calls that would change the trajectory of this entire situation. The first call was to my lawyer, David Morrison, who'd helped me with the house purchase. "David, I need to understand my rights as a homeowner when it comes to family members who've overstayed their welcome." His voice was crisp and professional. "Madison, in most states, including yours, even family members become tenants after 30 days of residence. However, if no rent is being paid and no formal agreement exists, you have the right to request they leave with proper notice." What constitutes proper notice? Typically 7 to 30 days, depending on the circumstances. "But Madison, is everything all right? You sound stressed." I explained the situation briefly, and his response surprised me. "You're not overreacting. Property rights exist for a reason. Even family members can't simply take over your personal space without permission." The second call was to my friend Jessica, asking if she could come over that evening as a witness to what I was about to do. "Jess, I need someone there who can verify that I'm being reasonable. Someone who can see this situation clearly." "Of course, but Madison, what exactly are you planning?" "I'm going to reclaim my own house." The third call was to a local print shop. "I need a formal notice printed on legal-sized paper. Professional format. Can you have it ready by 5 p.m? When I returned home that evening with Jessica and the printed document in my hand, I found my family exactly where I'd expected them. Emma spread across my living room sofa with her laptop and legal papers, Mom organising my kitchen to her liking, and Dad watching TV in my den like he'd been living there for years instead of days. "Madison," Mom called cheerfully. Perfect timing. Emma and I were just discussing paint colours for the master bedroom. "We think a soft blue would be lovely, don't you?" Paint colours. For my bedroom. In my house. Jessica's eyes widened as she took in the scene. I could see her processing what I'd told her against the reality in front of her. Emma's belongings were everywhere. Her exercise equipment in my living room, her work files covering my dining table, her coffee mugs in my sink. "Actually," I said, my voice steadier than I'd expected, "I need to talk to everyone. Could you all sit down for a moment?" Emma looked up from her laptop with mild irritation. "Madison, I'm in the middle of reviewing divorce documents. Can this wait?" "No, it can't wait." Something in my tone must have gotten their attention because they all looked at me properly for the first time since I'd walked in. Dad muted the TV. Mum stopped reorganising my spice rack. Emma closed her laptop. I stood in front of them in my own living room, holding the printed document, with Jessica beside me as my witness. My heart was pounding, but my resolve was absolute. "I need to give you this," I said, holding out the paper to my father. Dad took it and read the header aloud. "Notice to quit and vacate premises." His voice trailed off as he scanned the rest. "Madison, what is this?" Mum's voice was sharp now, all the cheerful hostess energy gone. "It's a formal request for you to find alternative housing. You have 30 days to make arrangements and move out." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's mouth fell open. Mum's face went through several expressions before settling on shocked indignation. Dad just stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. Madison Elizabeth Thompson, Mum's voice had that dangerous edge I remembered from childhood. "You cannot be serious." "I'm completely serious." Emma stood up so quickly, her laptop nearly fell off the couch. "Are you out of your mind? We're family. You're literally evicting your own family." "I'm asking you to respect my boundaries in my own home." "Boundaries?" Emma's voice pitched higher. "Madison, this is insane. You're acting like we're strangers off the street instead of your parents and sister. You're acting like tenants who never asked permission to move in." Dad finally found his voice. "Madison, honey, I think you're having some kind of breakdown. This isn't rational. Families don't serve eviction notices on each other. Families also don't take over each other's bedrooms without asking." Jessica cleared her throat softly. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to say, as an outside observer, Madison's request seems reasonable. This is her house." 3 pairs of eyes turned to Jessica like she'd committed treason. Mom's voice was ice cold. "I'm sorry, but I don't think this concerns you." "You're right," Jessica said calmly. "It concerns Madison, and she asked me here to witness this conversation." Emma rounded on me. "You brought a witness, to ambush your own family. Madison, what has gotten into you?" "What's gotten into me is that I'm tired of being treated like a guest in my own home." "We're not treating you like a guest," Mum protested. "We're treating you like family." No, you're treating me like the family member whose needs don't matter. Like always. The words hung in the air like a bomb that had just detonated. Years of resentment, years of being the understanding one, years of stepping aside so Emma could have the best of everything. It was all there in that sentence. Dad's voice was quiet. Madison, that's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time anyone in this family asked what I wanted before making a decision that affected me? We ask your opinion all the time, Emma said defensively. You ask my opinion, and then you do whatever you wanted to do anyway, just like you did with my bedroom. It's just sleeping arrangements, Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. If it's just sleeping arrangements, then you won't mind sleeping in the guest room. Emma's face flushed red. Madison, I told you, I need the space. I'm going through a divorce. I have legal documents everywhere. I need room to spread out. And I need room to live in my own house. This is ridiculous, Emma snapped. You're being petty and vindictive, all because of a stupid bedroom. This isn't about a bedroom. This is about respect. Jessica spoke up again. Can I ask something? Emma, when you moved into Madison's master bedroom, did you ask her permission first? Emma looked at Jessica like she'd grown a second head. I shouldn't need permission. She's my sister. But it's her bedroom, in her house, that she pays for. Family doesn't keep score like that, Mom interjected. You're right, I said. Family doesn't keep score, but family also doesn't take without asking. Family considers each other's feelings. Family doesn't assume that one person's needs automatically outweigh another person's needs. Dad was reading the notice again. Madison, this says we have 30 days. Where exactly do you expect us to go? The same place you lived before you came here. Your mother and I sold our condo to help pay for Emma's legal fees, Dad said quietly. This was news to me. You sold your condo? When? Last month. Emma's divorce is getting expensive and she needed the support. I looked at Emma, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. You let them sell their home to pay for your divorce? I didn't let them do anything. They offered. And where were you planning to live long term? The silence that followed answered my question. They had been planning to live here, permanently, in my house, without ever asking me. You were planning to move in permanently, I said. It wasn't a question. Mom's voice was defensive. We were hoping we could work something out, as a family. Work something out? Like what? Like pooling our resources, Dad said. Your mother and I could help with the mortgage payments. Emma could contribute once her divorce settlement comes through. And I would what? Pay half the mortgage on my own house while you all lived here? You'd have help with expenses, Mom said, and company, and family support. I'd have 3 roommates I never agreed to have. Emma threw her hands up. God, Madison, you're being so selfish. We're offering to help you, and you're acting like we're trying to rob you. You moved into my bedroom without asking. How is that helping me? Because I'm the one who needs space right now. You're young, you're single, you don't have any major life changes happening. I'm going through a divorce. And that gives you the right to take over my house? It gives me the right to expect support from my family? Support and taking over my house are 2 different things. Jessica leaned forward slightly. Emma, can I ask you something? If the situation were reversed and Madison was going through a divorce and moved into your master bedroom without asking, how would you feel? Emma's mouth opened and closed several times. That's different. How is it different? Because Madison isn't going through a divorce. But if she were? Emma looked trapped. I would want to help her. By giving up your bedroom? That's not... You're twisting this around. I'm just asking if you'd be willing to do for Madison what you're expecting her to do for you. The room fell silent again. I could see my family processing this perspective for the first time. The idea that my feelings and needs might be as valid as Emma's. "Madison," Mom said finally, her voice softer now, "we never meant to make you feel unwelcome in your own home. But you did. We were just trying to figure out how to make this work for everyone, without asking me what would work for me." Dad folded the notice and set it on the coffee table. "What would work for you, Madison?" It was the first time anyone had asked me that question since this whole situation began. I want my bedroom back. I want my house back. I want to feel like this is my home, not a place where I'm tolerated as long as I don't make waves. "That's not how we see you," Mom protested. "That's how you treat me." Emma was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was smaller than usual. "Madison, I didn't realize... I didn't think about how this might feel for you. You didn't think about me at all." The words stung, and I could see it on Emma's face, but they were true. "So what happens now?" Dad asked. I looked at the notice on the table, then at my family, then at Jessica, who gave me an encouraging nod. "Now you have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. I'll help you look for places. I'll even help you move, but you can't live here anymore." "Madison," Mom's voice broke slightly, "we're your family." "I know, and I love you. But being family doesn't mean I have to sacrifice my own well-being for yours. Not anymore." Emma stood up and started gathering her things from the coffee table. "Fine. If that's how you want it, fine. But don't expect me to forgive you for this anytime soon." "I'm not asking for forgiveness," I said quietly. "I'm asking for respect." After my family left that night, Emma to stay with a friend, my parents to a hotel, Jessica and I sat in my living room, with my furniture arranged the way I liked it. "How do you feel?" she asked. I considered the question. Sad, relieved, terrified, proud, all at the same time. "That sounds about right. Do you think I did the right thing?" Jessica was quiet for a moment. "Madison, I've watched you shrink yourself to fit other people's expectations for as long as I've known you. Tonight was the first time I've seen you take up the space you actually deserve." I looked around my house, really looked at it. Without Emma's exercise equipment cluttering the living room, without my parents' belongings scattered across every surface, without the constant noise of other people's needs drowning out my own thoughts. "It's so quiet," I said. "Good quiet or bad quiet?" "I'm not sure yet." That night, I slept in my own bed for the first time in a week. I took a long bath in my own bathtub, used my own bathroom without waiting for someone else to finish, and put my jewelry box back on my own dresser. I also cried. Because standing up for yourself, even when you're right, even when it's necessary, doesn't feel like victory in the moment. It feels like loss. But as I lay there in my own bed, in my own room, in my own house, I realized something important. For the first time in my adult life, I had chosen my own well-being over someone else's convenience. I had said no to a family pattern that had defined my entire childhood and adolescence. I had finally learned that love doesn't require you to disappear. The next few weeks were difficult. Emma didn't speak to me for 2 weeks, communicating only through Mom when necessary. My parents found a small apartment across town and moved out with barely concealed resentment. There were guilt trips, cold shoulders, and several heated phone calls where I was accused of everything from selfishness to destroying the family. But there were also small victories, like coming home to a clean house that stayed clean, like being able to work from home without constant interruptions, like sleeping through the night without hearing other people's conversations in the hallway. Most importantly, there was the slow, growing realization that I had worth beyond my willingness to accommodate everyone else's needs. 3 weeks after the eviction notice, Emma called me. "Madison, it's me." "Hi, Emma. I wanted to apologize." I almost dropped the phone. "What?" I said I wanted to apologize. I've been thinking about what happened, and you were right. I did take over your house. I never asked how you felt about any of it. Emma, no, let me finish. I've been staying with Sarah, and she has this tiny guest room that I've been sleeping in. And yesterday, her sister came to visit and asked if she could use my room for the night. And I got so offended. I was like, this is my space. She can't just take it. And then I realized that's exactly what I did to you, except it wasn't even my space. It was yours. I sat down on my couch, in my living room, arranged exactly how I liked it. Thank you for saying that. I don't like who I was in your house, Madison. I don't like how entitled I acted, and I don't like that it took losing your respect for me to realize how badly I was treating you. You didn't lose my respect, Emma, but I did lose my respect for myself for a while there. Can I ask you something? Of course. Have I always been like this entitled and demanding? I considered lying, but we'd moved past the point where gentle lies would help either of us. Sometimes, yeah, but I think it's because it was always easier for everyone when I just went along with what you wanted, including me. God, Madison, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry too. I'm sorry I never spoke up before. I'm sorry I let resentment build up instead of being honest about how I felt. Are we going to be okay? I looked around my peaceful, quiet house. Yeah, I think we are. But things are going to be different now. Different how? I'm not going to be the understanding one anymore. Not automatically. I'm going to speak up when something doesn't work for me. Even if it makes things uncomfortable? Especially then. Emma laughed, and it sounded genuine for the first time in weeks. Mum's going to hate this new version of you. Mum's going to have to adjust. We all are. A month after the eviction notice, my family came over for dinner. My parents seemed smaller somehow, more careful with their words. Emma asked before moving anything, before using my bathroom, before even sitting on my couch. It was awkward at first. We were all learning new patterns, new ways of interacting that didn't rely on my automatic compliance. But halfway through dinner, Dad looked around and said, "This is a beautiful home, Madison. You should be proud of what you've built here." It was the first time he'd ever acknowledged that this house was mine, that I'd accomplished something worth recognizing. Thank you, Dad. Mum was quiet for most of the evening, but as they were leaving, she pulled me aside. Madison, I want you to know, I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. It wasn't easy to watch, and it wasn't easy to accept, but you were right to do it. Thanks, Mom. I think we got so used to you being agreeable that we forgot you had the right to disagree. I forgot I had that right too. After they left, I stood in my kitchen loading dishes into my dishwasher and realized something had fundamentally shifted, not just in my house but in me. For 25 years I had believed that love meant saying yes, that family meant sacrifice, that being a good person meant putting everyone else's needs before my own. But standing in my kitchen, in my house, with my family's respect for the first time in my adult life, I realized I'd been wrong about all of that. Love means wanting the best for someone, even when it's inconvenient for you. Family means supporting each other's growth, even when it challenges old patterns. Being a good person means having enough respect for yourself to believe you deserve consideration too. As I turned off the lights and headed to my bedroom, I thought about all the other areas of my life where I'd been playing small, being understanding, avoiding conflict at the cost of my own well-being. But that was a project for tomorrow. Tonight, I was just going to sleep peacefully in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by the quiet that comes from finally learning to take up the space you deserve. Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own life? Like everyone else's needs were more important than your own? Like being kind meant never saying no? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for others and for yourself, is to believe that you matter too.